Hey everyone, what's up? And welcome back to my channel. It's Josh. Today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at my brand new Seiko Presage SARY055. And that is this guy here. This, as I'm sure you can tell, is a JDM watch. Not really available here in the United States. I bought mine through Seiko Japan. I am not sponsored by them, but I love Seiko so much, as I've said in countless other videos. And I highly recommend them for anybody who is looking to purchase a JDM watch, whether it's Casio, Seiko, Orient, Citizen, whoever. This model is the SARY055, retails for 38,000 yen in Japan. Seiya's got it listed for anywhere between like $294 and $318, depending on if it's still on sale when you're watching this video. I pay $294 for the watch, and then I always do their $20 DHL express shipping, because it gets from Japan to my door in literally 2 days, which is insane. Okay, so I want to start this off by kind of talking a little bit about the watch and sort of its position within the Seiko Presage, the JDM Seiko Presage line. This guy actually sits pretty near to the bottom, but when I say bottom, I don't mean like, you know, I don't mean that it's a cheap watch. It is absolutely affordable, but build quality-wise, it is spectacular. So this sits at about the same price point as a lot of the cocktail time watches. Now, I'm not gonna, I'll say that I am not a fan of the cocktail series. I actually bought one to see what it was like, and I ended up returning it because it really wasn't, it just wasn't for me. And so I returned that and actually ended up using the same, money that I had spent on that on getting this guy here. And I just think that this is just an incredible value proposition. If you've ever handled the cocktail times and you've handled the bracelet and you've kind of, seen the face and the casing, it definitely feels a little bit cheap. As many, lower-end Seikos do, I think, but that one specifically felt... I was a little bit surprised that they put the Presage name on it, because I did feel like it wasn't up to the kind of the JDM spec for what a Presage, or what a Presage should be. This guy, on the other hand, is an incredible value proposition. So if you're looking for a Seiko in the $200 to $400 price point, I absolutely think that this should be on your short list, if not your list, period. So on this watch, unlike a lot of the cocktail times, you get a sapphire crystal here on the face. You get an exhibition case back here on the back. This is a Hardlex case. You get a really phenomenally machined bracelet here. I'll talk a little bit more about that because that's one of the talking points that I wanted to cover in the video. And you get a really beautifully done final product, I think. So I'm actually going to turn my light here so that it does not blowing out the face completely. Okay, so the way that I'm going to structure this video is exactly the same as I did my Oceanus and my 055 Snowflake video. A lot of people seem to like the way that I did that, so I had three main talking points, and then for each I have a pro and a con. First things first here. This guy is very comparable to a SARB. The now discontinued SARB 033 and 035. The difference between this and the SARB is that this one has the 4R36 movement, and you can kind of see that if we look at it maybe down here. So it does say these are all made in Japan, and it has the 4R36 movement. The 4R36, for those who don't know, or if you're not familiar with Seiko's kind of like model movement lineup, the 4R36 is basically the 4R35. It doesn't want to focus with me. The 4R36 is basically the 4R35 with the day-date function. So here you can see, because we have a JDM watch, our date, I'm sorry, this is difficult with gloves, our date is going to cycle through English and then the kanji, Japanese kanji for the day, which I think is actually really cool. If you have ever seen a US market watch with the day-date function, so like some of the divers, you will notice that it goes between English and Spanish, where this one goes between English and kanji. And I've decided to just kind of keep it on the kanji because I think that's such a phenomenal feature of the watch. Okay, so the upside to the 4R35 or 36 movement is that, it's a really solid workhorse movement. It's incredibly serviceable. It'll just last forever. It'll run and run and run. It's not anything super complicated, and it can be repaired and serviced very easily by most anybody. Now Seiko says that this guy should run at about plus or minus 45 or 35 seconds. I think that they really understate that, and understate meaning that or maybe they overstate how big the delta in terms of accuracy is. This guy, and most other Seikos for that matter, with the 4R35 or 36 movement, aren't anywhere near that inaccurate. Some people have said on watch blogs that they have actually been able to regulate these movements, both the 4R and the 6R, to run at near COSC certification standards. I don't know that you would get that close, but I do think that you can definitely get it way, way more accurate than Seiko states. So also, being that this is a Seiko, you have an in-house movement, which, is sort of more of a talking point than anything else. But you can say that this watch has an in-house movement. It's got an in-house caliber with date function, that complication there. Now the downside, of course, is that it is the 4R36 movement, so it's not the 6R that the SARB has and that the upper end of the Presage line, have in them. And so, some people might look down their noses at, well, it's only the 4R, but look at all the watches, you guys, that have that 4R movement in them. Like, all of the US divers basically have it in there. The Cocktail Times all have the 4R36 or 35 movement. It's a really great movement. It's not the prettiest thing to look at, as I'm sure you can see here. But, it's an automatic in-house caliber. And so I think for, again, keeping in mind that this watch is $300, I really don't think you can go wrong with it. And really quickly, you guys, the 4R and the 6R calibers are not, like, crazy night and day different. The 6R is basically, as I understand it to be, and, school me down in the comments if I'm wrong, but the 4R caliber is basically kind of an updated version, or I'm sorry, the 6R is basically an updated version of the 4R movement anyway, so it's not like you're getting, a whole brand new caliber movement. The difference, I think, the big difference is that the 6R15 uses that Sprawn 510 mainspring, and so you get 50 hours of power reserve versus the more, around 38 to 40 hours of power reserve with the 4R35 or 36 movement. And just realistically, most people who buy these watches, again, for the $300, are not going to notice a big difference, if any difference, and that's not going to be a big selling point for, I think, most people looking at this watch. And I just don't think that if you're looking at this watch and you're maybe putting it up against like a SARB or something like that, I don't think it's worth spending the extra money that a SARB is, retailing for on the street right now because it's been discontinued. Okay, so next, while we're talking about that SARB, that kind of takes me into my second talking point, in that this is a pretty sizable watch, especially for a more like dressier piece. And let me show you what I mean. So I have my SARX055 Snowflake. And can you see here how much bigger the SARY is? I don't know if it's really coming across, but you can definitely see. When you look at these guys side by side, the SARY is about 42 millimeters, so it's a pretty sizable watch. Although I think because of the way that it's designed, where the chapter ring is quite large, and the bezel is quite small, it doesn't come across as looking like a 42 millimeter watch. Like when I took it out of the box, I was surprised that it was that big because it definitely doesn't print that large, and on the wrist it doesn't wear that large either. You have really nice curved lugs down here that really kind of hug your wrist as well. And then this case actually kind of sits up, so you can see like the bottom of the case is actually here at the exhibition case back. But the side of the watch here really kind of comes up and contours to your wrist. So I don't feel like this is really, it doesn't wear as big as, what you might expect a 42 millimeter watch to wear. So I am wearing today my Oceanus, and I just did a review on this guy as well, but let me take this off. And I will put this on so you guys can see exactly what I mean. I have about 7-inch wrists, and so I can wear a 42 millimeter watch. Like, strictly speaking, this is about where it tops out for me. Because of the way that the case is designed, because I think it is, it looks more dressy, it really doesn't feel like what a 42 millimeter watch feels like. The only thing I'll say, because of how big it is, this is a 22 millimeter lug width, and so the bracelet is quite wide, but it does taper down just a bit from the case. And you can see here on my wrist, like the way that the case kind of hugs your wrist and the contours of your wrist, really doesn't make it feel too large. And even the way that, again, the case, this kind of like the bottom edge here of the case really sits up above your wrist, so it doesn't even look that tall either. And you can kind of see that there. I hope this is coming across. Okay, now the con. So, you know, with that being said, though, again, if you do have smaller wrists, like 6.5, 6 3/4, you may find that this watch is a little bit big, and it definitely is a little bit heavier than something like even, so this is the SARY055, and it's also stainless steel. You know, the weight is about the same, but you definitely notice that this one is a little bit heavier. It's not that it's, you know, a burden to wear, but I know that some people in my videos have said heavier watches do tend to bother them. So if you're looking at this guy, there's no like titanium option or anything, you know, to do a lighter metal. So what I would recommend is, if you really like the case and you like the design and everything else about this watch, what I would recommend is going with a really nice leather strap on here. You know, this is a standard 22mm lug with no curved spring bar or anything like that. So you can just kind of swap out and put like a really nice, you know, like a Shinola leather strap is what I would recommend. But even something like, you know, like a Fossil or a Hirsch or whoever, you know, whatever strap maker you like. Where when you put it on a leather band, it actually sort of becomes a little bit more sort of vintage-y, a little bit more casual, but dressy casual. It's a really nice combination, especially with the white face, although I think the black face would look equally as nice on a leather strap. But specifically with the white face and a brown leather strap, like if you match that brown to the brown of your shoes, you know, or something like that, I think that that is just like the ultimate, you know, nice, like sort of semi-dressy casual look. But I think it really makes you look polished and put together, like you really thought about what you're wearing. Okay, and then finally, my last kind of observation that I wanted to share with you all, and this really should have been the first maybe, is that this bracelet is impressive. I don't know if I'm hoping it's coming out here in my in the video, but the way that this bracelet is machined, the way that it's cut, the way that it was, you know, the finishing has all been applied to it, is so impressive for a $300 watch. I bag on Seiko a lot. I bag on Tissot and Seiko, actually both, for having kind of crappy bracelets. But this guy is just really, really impressive to me in how sharp it is. And I don't mean sharp in like, you know, the edges are sharp and going to cut you or anything like that. I mean sharp in the way that like all of the angles, the bevels, the just, you know, you can really tell when you look at a watch, for example, and you look at the, you know, how much tolerance there is for the gaps between the links and all that kind of thing. This guy is so tight, really, really nicely done. It's very reminiscent, actually, of the bracelet on the higher end Presage. So, like, this is the SARX035, where you have kind of rounded outer links, but then a kind of squared off inner link there. So you see how we have like a rounded contour on the link here, but then our inner links are kind of more prism-like, very squared away. Same look and feel on this guy here. At a lower price point, of course, but still definitely very nice. So here we have, again, rounded outer links, and then a sharply cut inner link. And what's really nice about this is that because they couldn't do, you know, because the SARY does not have the, you know, the 5-piece link where you can do, you know, brushed, polished, brushed, polished, brushed. What they've done instead to add a little bit more shine to the bracelet is they have done on the bevels. So can you see this here, where the inner link, get that to focus, the inner link here, the top is brushed, but then that beveled edge is actually polished, and you can really see that there, I think. So it really makes for a nice combination, because you have basically a, you know, entirely brushed bracelet, but then if you look at it in the light, a light kind of glints off of the bevels, it's polished. And I think that that, again, at $300, this is a standout bracelet. And I don't know if you can hear this. I'm trying to shake it near the microphone. But it doesn't feel hollow. You know, and all of these are, of course, solid end links. But even solid end links sometimes can sound hollow. Like the link itself can sound like there's not much in there. These guys feel so solid. And even just look at the tolerances kind of on the inside of the bracelet there. Look how, I mean, just put together that is. It's really, really well done. I'm really impressed at how Seiko was able to do this bracelet at $300 and yet make it feel so premium. So that's the pro. The cons now on this bracelet, of course, are at $300. You are going to get a stamp clasp. Again, you know, it's just managing your expectations of a $300 watch. And then here, specifically, this is the one thing. I'm okay with the stamp clasp, to be honest, because the rest of the bracelet is so nice. What sort of bothers me with this one, with this SARY, is that like on the end of the bracelet where it meets the case, okay, you see how with the SARX, even this last link here where it meets the case, it's still 5 pieces. So, you know, you've got, these are 5 separate, you know, pieces that make up this end link. Where on the SARY, this is just one piece of metal that they have kind of, you know, they've kind of created like a faux link here in the center. Not a big deal. Again, at $300, really, really not a big deal. But I would have liked to see them, you know, do the end links with 3 solid pieces, with 3 separate pieces. I think that would have made this watch, it just would have been that detail that really finished it off. Because in every other way, this watch is really really, really phenomenally finished. For $300, the fit and finish on this watch is honestly just incredible. Okay, so really quickly, one last thing. I want to talk about sort of price and positioning of these two in the Seiko Presage line. Now, obviously, between these two, and I'm just going to be cheeky and put a picture here in the video because I don't own one. Between these two is the SARB, and it is sort of definitely a middle ground. So you have sort of the case design of the SARY, but you have the movement from the SARX. The SARB was basically this case design with the 6R15 movement from the SARX. Now, the SARB has since been discontinued, and the street prices, if you have been keeping up with that, have like skyrocketed to where it's almost ridiculous how much people are asking for them. You know, when it was being produced, you could usually get it for around like $330 from like eBay or something like that. Well, Long Island Watch is now charging $4.99 for that, and I don't know if that's always been the price or if they jacked it up because it's been discontinued and is sort of hard to find now. But if you were to come to me and say, hey Josh, I'm looking at, you know, getting a SARB, here's what I would say to you. If you can save, you know, if you can save or spend the extra $300 to $400 on the SARX, you know, 30 series basically, and you can get any of these in black and white, by the way, I would highly, highly recommend that you save the extra money or spend the extra money and go for the SARX 30 series. It's just a much more finished watch than the SARB. Like, the SARB is basically a smaller version of this guy, but same case design, you know, same, like, you're not getting the kind of baby Grand Seiko fit and finish on the SARB. You're getting more of this sort of fit and finish. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you're looking at, you know, maybe this between this and the SARB, I would say, you know, either save a couple $100 and get the SARY, or spend a couple $100 more and get the SARX. I don't think the SARB is, I know everybody loves the SARB, and I'm not trying to talk smack about anybody's watch, but honestly, the price difference between, the SARB kind of just sits in a really weird middle ground between these two, and I don't know, I think you're either going to be, like, you'll be happy that you saved a couple $100 and got the SARY, or you'll be happy that you spent a couple $100 more and got the SARX. So I don't know, that's just my opinion, and again, I'm filming in April of 2019, so the SARB has been discontinued, and I have seen prices, you know, on the street price go up on the SARB. So that's about it, guys. That's all I can really think to tell you about the watch. I'm really, really thrilled with this. I am so glad I got it. I think anybody who does buy one of these is going to be really, really happy with it. Again, you know, for $300, you really can't beat this guy, and frankly, if you're looking at a cocktail time and you can do without the cocktail time dial, I would highly, highly recommend going with the SARY055 or 057 in black. This is just a phenomenal standout watch. that really, really is, I mean, this should be your shortlist. This watch alone should be your shortlist for a Seiko at $300. If you've got any questions or comments, as I always say, please leave them down in the comments below or message me on Instagram. I do respond as best I can and as quickly as I can to any questions and comments that do come through. I hope you guys are having a great one, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.